Paul, can you hear me? I can't hear you now.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, very good. Yep. So again, you have to speak close to the mic. So not real close, like the old mics, which were singing mics. These mics have about an 18-inch cone in front of them, but it is only in front of them. It doesn't want to pick up any sounds at the side. So if a fire truck goes by, noise canceling software in the cone that's in front of it will hopefully dampen that out. It will also, it won't pick up somebody sitting next to you. Unfortunately, I don't have enough microphones to go up unless Alan doesn't show up. Then Sean, hopefully he'll come. Jessica, you guys can either share a mic or, we'll grab Alan's mic and bring it over here for these two. Can we push it and just leave it on? You can push it and leave it on. In fact, for the chair, that's what I would recommend. And then other members, as you want to come in, it's going to be hard for you to remember to push the button every time, but if you don't, your voice will not get picked up. So I will attempt to remind you. I will do that wavy thing that I do, so that you all know that, yes, right? Exactly right. Or trying to sell some oil at Louis. So that's all I've got on the microphones. If anybody has any questions on them, let me know. It is also possible for the entire board to unmute themselves, but that means that any side discussions you have will get picked up. Clear as mud? And we are also live on TV and WebEx. So anybody who wants to come in for WebEx can come in. Could be.
Welcome all to the Automotive Field Meeting at Lloyd, June.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Entrances are at the back. Put our cell phones on mute. Okay. On to business. Public hearing. Stewart shop. 3733 Route 9W, 96.9 sign height lot coverage variance. Variance of 1.8 inches for sign height. It's also seeking relief of 23% lot coverage. Mama. Looks like put this so I can see it.
That? Yeah, maybe so those guys could put it, so those guys could see it over there, because obviously they don't want to turn their heads around. Just so you all know, it's on the screen behind you. So.
Yeah, want to take this. Let me slide that. Yeah, those gentlemen over there.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Tyler Fronte here from Stewart Shops tonight to discuss the two variances in front of the board tonight. As Chairman Litz mentioned, the first variance requested is for sign height. As mentioned at a previous meeting, our standard sign height is 15 feet. We reviewed the code prior to try to make it as much code compliant as possible. So we reduced it to 7 feet, and we made a monument sign, which was the form showing the prototype was submitted to the board for last month's meeting. So does the board have any questions regarding the sign?
Yes. Placement of the sign. Has anyone done a study as to whether that's going to site distance coming out of Capitol Hill Road?
So part of our traffic study that we did for the planning board, we took in reviewed all the site distances, and there was no issue at the location.
Just make sure, I swear. You'll see.
Meaning, is it sufficient enough?
You need to speak into the mic. Speak into the mic.
Yes, the sign height will work here.
Excuse me, can we go over those numbers again? The original sign you said is 15, you're gonna go up to 71?
7 feet 10 inches.
John. Hope this works. Yeah. The board remembers that the maximum sign height for a monument sign is 6 feet. Okay.
The discrepancy, like, if he wants to go 7'10", and they're asking for 1'8". I go through 6 feet, you want to go 7'10"?
That's correct. 7 10.
Okay, we have to look at that.
Let's see here.
Bill, you need to speak closer to the mic. I'm sorry. Pull the mic. Yeah, physically put it closer.
Well, I don't feel it'll set a precedent because each case, you review each case individually. As Alan mentioned, with the bank sign, what I would do individually. We don't really take that into consideration because I don't, that's, it's you that's separate entity.
But we have to establish.
They have 6 feet. They established a 6-foot maximum height. And sewer shop is in front of us for 1'10", because they want to go 7'10". They want to go higher because they feel at 6 feet, the traveling public won't be able to view the sign. And
It's gonna happen down the road. Something else because of surrounding areas.
look at that when it's in front of us.
If you remember, we did this the car wash. Right. So everyone is individual, so we had no present. They go as they come and we review them as they.
Right, that's pretty good.
You are saying it's in the characteristic of the neighborhood.
Anyone else? Before we put that out to the public, we'll go through the second part of your variance request.
Absolutely. So the next request is for lot coverage. We are 23% above the allowed lot coverage, which is 40% in the highway business district. That being said, we took some comments from the board as well as the letter from Mr. Oran. My apologies about that name. My apologies. But we went back, we did some modifications to the plan, so I would like to share that with everyone. The first item is we removed parking space number 17 on the south side on Route 9W. So we did remove one space there. And then the other modification we made is you guys see where the gas tanks are. That distance was 38 feet from edge of canopy to edge of pavement. We reduced that to 35 feet. We had turning radiuses done. We took into account what the fire department and fire chief needed for turning radiuses for his vehicles, and they all meet the turning radiuses.
That's not enough?
I'd like to see the bottom right there, where the dumpster is and all of that. That area right there, that's asphalt, correct? Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any way to reduce the lot coverage? Is there any way we can explore in that area, perhaps? Doing some sort of impervious, like a concrete pass through gravel. I know why we don't want it near the gas pumps, but in that area, if they bring their lot coverage down and still perform the same function, because it's not for the traveling public, you don't have to worry about people walking on slightly uneven surface. Perhaps we could explore something like that, get the lot coverage down before the fun.
So that we review that comment. The county mentioned that as well. The reason we don't do that is because we are considered a hotspot due to the gas. The other issue with permeable surface is you can't salt the lots because it clogs the pores.
Okay, but again, that particular area, I don't know what this distance is that would be considered quote unquote hotspot or out of that hotspot zone. And that area where the dumpsters are, that's not for the traveling public. It's only for employee or garbage truck. So it's not something that you would readily have to solve often for as much as where people are going to walk. I'm looking for alternatives just to reduce your lot coverage. That's something that I think we may want to explore if there is an alternative. If there is not, then we explore it. It won't work. I completely understand if you're close to the gas pump or there's a possibility of a spill, you don't want them. Obviously, you don't want permeable surface. But that area, in particular, I don't know if that would be an issue. And I'm not familiar with the distance between the gas pump and where you could use a system like that. And you could explore that.
Yes, we'll take a look at it and get back to the board.
And you also said you took out parking space number 17.
Yes,
What did you replace it with?
green space.
Green space.
Correct.
That's not enough. So
Doing so, you move the curb line further to the north to gain green space there as well.
And I show on this plan that Mr. Brown has an updated version. I believe I did.
We have maps here.
Yeah.
Joe, you want maps?
Yeah, it's good. It's great.
You want to share that on the phone? Oh, yeah, you moved it over.
Right, and so this was, you move this curb line up as well, so you gain whatever this area, all the way out. We have a calculation on it.
Yeah, so the new updated, we were able to reduce it from 63% to 61%.
And
Slowly, surely.
the function of the board is to give the minimal relief. So anything we can do, even like we said, 61%. So you can explore other options. Then, you guys can on your own explore some options to reduce the lot coverage. Anybody else?
That leak here. Groundwater,
So the tanks we install are double fiberglass tanks with a monitoring system. And there's also an emergency gas shut-off on the building. So the spill rate is not like
And your environmental, it's like feet, that's, they have to do that anyway. Groundwater,
and we have an in-house geologist and environmental team who regulates our sites every single day. Monthly, if there's any leak, the system will trigger that.
Bill, Bill, we spent so much money on these microphones. I took so much heat for it. I'm begging you to speak into the microphone. I'm begging you.
he's got to jump.
I'll buy you lunch. I swear, so much heat I've taken for these microphones. Just bring it closer. Put it in your lap. I don't care. You can hug it. Wrap it around your neck. Whatever you need. Please.
The wells in terms of, well, the only wells, there's public water and sewer. So there's no public wells or private wells nearby. So there's 3 existing on the property today. But again, these are double fiberglass walls, so there's a monitoring system. So the technology now is way different when they were steel tanks just in the ground. Understood. I hear you.
Does anyone have any more questions?
Could you tell me the actual numbers in square feet of what is this 23% coverage equal to the foot in square feet?
I have that on the plan right
It's on the map.
on the table. That's correct. With the recent modifications.
Each building, concrete.
We try to separate it out on the plans.
Free space, right? 62%. So we went from 18 something to poles, 18 to 3,000. 2,800.
Yeah, this is what's here now. So you got
15.4, and then you got 82. Yeah, okay. 32, right, 32. That's right.
So, and, like the applicant, we like the applicant to explore some other areas. I understand when there's a, obviously there's a, but if you can look into any other space that can be, that a product like that could be utilized.
We'll take a look at it. So that's for the planning board. We did submit a traffic study. We did have a meeting with the county, the town, and New York State DOT, and our access configuration. All parties were okay. Yeah, the traffic professionals are aware.
Read, play back, and ask you a couple more questions. Like to entertain any comments or questions from the public? Sure. Assuming that's going to be. Thank you.
Jim, speaking to the mic.
Is it push or no?
It's, it'll be green if it's
Oh,
pushed.
you got push. There you go.
So, my name is James Ryan. I'm an attorney. I represent Chapel Hill. Which is the civil station. And I submitted a letter before the last meeting. And, there's a couple of issues with respect to the application. First, I'd like to say for the record, I love Stewart's. It's not frequently great coffee, good coffees. So,
Ice cream.
Stewart says,
Ice cream.
and great ice cream.
There we go.
Was great on apple pie.
Amen.
So, having said that, with respect to this application, one of the discussions I thought was good that the board had was with respect to the signs. And what precedent does the variance set? And, signs are taken on a case-by-case basis. So things like elevation. Sometimes it's a pole, sometimes radius. It's very different. And, and that's one of the things that the zoning board does, is they look at the oddities, the things that don't necessarily fit nicely. And we have no objection to the variance with respect to this. But when it comes to the variance for lot coverage, this isn't really different per se than other sites in the highway business district. You're saying that we can't live with the 40% that it's at. We'd like something more. I don't think they've really given you a good reason as to why they need something. That's your job as the zoning board of appeals, is to look at applicants and look at the needs that they have. What's the benefit for the applicant versus the detriment to the community as a whole? And we would like to have a gas station and a Stewart's shop. Please give us 63% lot coverage. Is not legally sustainable. That's not the way the laws work. In my opinion. So I think first, one of the things is one of the obligations that the zoning board has is to look at it. And so one of the questions, in essence, really here, this is two uses. You've got a gas station, you've got Stewart's. You're not looking at a small gas station with a little, pop-up convenience store where somebody can go in and get a couple of, bottle of milk or pack of cigarettes, can of beer. It's a Stewart shop. I mean, I don't know if it's the standard size shop, but it's almost 4,000 square feet.
I believe in the previous meeting, they said they'd reduce the size from the standard.
Okay. So, but again, here, if you look at the site, a very large portion of the site is the impervious coverage is taken up by the gas station. And you've got 4 pump houses. Why do they need 4 pump houses? Theoretically, they could get away with 1, they could get away with 2. And again, I represent developers, so I know, you ask for the max. So I put it 4, and maybe come down from there. Gasoline is kind of a lost leader. There's not a lot of markup on gasoline. the idea is to draw the traffic. So that's the business. But with respect to, this site, I don't necessarily think it would be possible to put gasoline and the sewage shop on the site without the variance. I mean, if you look at the lot coverage, a 40% probably would fit just the sewage store and the associated park. When you're doing a gas station, you've got pump islands, you've got circulation around the pump islands. You need to have sufficient access to get a gasoline truck into the site to fill the pumps. What we talked about regarding impervious surface, that's concrete as opposed to pavement because of the issues with gasoline seeping into groundwater. So, one of the things I think that the board should look at is what could you put on this site under the code? And I haven't seen anything like that, but that would be something that I would suggest. Again, you've got circulation aisles, you've got parking and things like that, so you could probably squeeze in some gas pumps kind of additionally with the paving, but again, it creates a lot of impervious station gasoline. Even a small gasoline station with just a kiosk in the middle, just to have payments, has a lot of impervious surface. One of the things also with respect to the public hearing notice, it notices just the one lot where the existing used car dealership is. But that's not what this application is just for. These are three separate lots.
Like the lots are recombined.
Correct. And they would have to be combined because otherwise there are all kinds of setback variances and things like that. So the lots are going to be combined, but if you look at the existing versus the existing coverage on all three lots combined, based on the application, the original application, it was 62% green space as it stands now. So they're almost at the 40%. So, if they added two more percent pervious surfaces, they would be at the 40% lot coverage with the configuration of all three lots as they are. So, having said that, the town board made a determination that in the highway business district, they wanted to see 40% lot coverage. That was reduced from 50, is that correct?
Yeah.
So what was it? It was before our last quote unquote comprehensive review board. What was it before? It was 50%, correct?
As you recall, John, you sat on the board. It was 50%, and then I think most of the board, some of the board wanted to go to 60 because it was highway business related, and then because of other elements and getting deals done, it went to 40.
Now, yes.
Correct.
So the feeling of it was because it's a business district, we felt it would probably be better for the town for it to go up. But certain elements of that committee were down.
And the town, and that's what the town wanted. So that's, again, land use attorneys and zoning board of appeals, you more than anyone else. It's got to play the ball where it lies.
Yep.
So I'm not asking you, I'm just telling you what the law is. Right, wrong, or indifferent, 40% lot coverage. I agree.
As it stands right now, you're correct.
Right. So should stewards go to the town board? They have an avenue to go to the town board with other property owners, and I know some of them in the highway business district that might come along to say 40% is crazy. Do an amendment. Go to 50, go to 60. But I mean, again, near 100, on Main Street,
I'm certain that part of the code relies upon this board to make the proper determination to give a variance for a higher lot coverage.
Within reason, obviously, within reason,
Absolutely.
and one of the standards is substantial. So you're in essence increasing the lot coverage by 50% over what's permitted. So if you're permitting, they're asking for 40, or the standard is 40%, they want 61 down, which is 21% over 40, which is a 50% increase of the 40% lot coverage. Hard to deal with that, but that's in essence what you're saying is roll out the town board.
Absolutely not. That is not what you said.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying that's what they're saying. But what they're asking, and again, they're asking for what they're asking. So, and there is a mechanism for them to go back to the town board and say, look, 40% doesn't make sense in this zone. And that's something that, is certainly legally possible.
And another mechanism for them is this board has worked really well, and that is their first avenue.
After they demonstrate alternatives, after they demonstrate that it doesn't have an adverse impact on the environment, the character of the neighborhood, I don't think necessarily matters in this particular case. Because when you do things like reduce things from what it was,
Right. Just for the character of the neighborhood. What is the actual lot coverage of the Sonoma percent? Well, that's probably over.
Probably close to 90%.
I'll again, but
Yeah,
again,
I'm looking at the neighborhood, I'm looking at the conceptual theory. What it would be directly across the street. Right?
so, but that's something that the town will get to do. And so, that's, that's one of the things that, and in this particular case, this would set a precedent. Because there's really no intrinsic geographical factors here that say, we need this. The lot is over the minimum lot size. We're not talking about a very small lot like the Snowball Station. We have a very small lot and we get some improvement on the lot. In case you consider that. This lot has some, the concept here has some quirky characteristics as to angles, but that's really not germane here for the purposes of lot coverage. I mean, it would be an issue of consent. They're basically saying we just need more impervious surface. 40% doesn't work for us. We would like 60 or 58. So, from my point of view, that makes for a bad precedent for future ones. And so again, as it stands out there right now, according to their map, there's close to 62% green space on all three of those lots combined, which is basically what your code is currently going. I don't know if you've got other applications recently in this week. Have they met or?
No, the views was 50%.
Yeah. You didn't mention that these people with this company, a sum of money invested in a new building, improvements on the property, don't they preserve an economic return for that money?
Well, that's not really a criteria here in the area. This was a use variance. More of an issue. The question here, and certainly they could put that in, if they want to put that in and say, board, we need to have these 4 gas pumps, and we need to have this, we need to have gas in addition to the store, because otherwise we can't take it.
I don't know if that would be a consideration.
I think that's a justification. I mean, that's the question. I mean, ultimately, you know, can you look at, for purposes of here, this is an area position, so I don't know, and that's a, you know, discussion we can have with the attorney, whether that would be germane or not. Yeah, that's something typically that doesn't come into play in the case of the mayor.
Yes, since this is a public hearing, maybe the applicant can give his thing and then you guys can do your debate separate. Otherwise, it'll be, I'm sure Mr. Rand will have an answer for everything that the board debates. So, and I'm not to shut Jim down, because he and I are long, positive history, I think. No indictment stuck, so hey, go us. But otherwise, you'll be back and forth all night, I think.
Sure. So, the other issue, with respect to environmental. So, you know, I mean, looking at the standards, desire to change character. Yeah, I don't think it necessarily does change the character that much, because this is really a reduction. You know, can be achieved by another means. And the other question here is, what is the benefit served by the app? Is it sewer store? Is it sewer store gas? So that's kind of one of the issues. And I don't know necessarily how that plays out. Doing this for 25 years. That's a question that you never really look at, but in this case, you know, that kind of 2 uses on the site. Is it possible to say, well, they can achieve the benefit, they can make a return, they can do their investment just to store the open, or they can make a return on their investment, they can achieve the benefit with just 1 or 2. So, you know, that's kind of the fact. Clearly, I think the requested variance is substantial because they went and, you know, would have an adverse impact on the physical environmental conditions. So, one of the issues here with respect to this runoff, yes, I think it's a question of addressed. But typically in gas station, you know, people pump gas, people pull out the hose, it gets on the ground. I ruined a pair of shoes because it take off or all kinds of stuff like that. They're not major spills, but typically what happens is it rains and washes stormwater facilities and they you know, they'll run into catch basins and ultimately lead to the river. Yes, I so, you know, so that's the more impervious surface you have, the more likely that is a problem because the impervious surfaces is catching that gas. And you know, self-created. So, you know, how do you handle that in this case? It's always a tough one.
Hey.
It is an ongoing question. You want the property itself. So all this laughing at that is, you know, but so that's my piece now.
Good.
It's a great pleasure. Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Here, come back up.
Does anyone else have any more questions on the public first you guys want to take? Or?
We're not going to close the public hearing as of yet. I don't. We have any of the public? We have any other members of the public?
I do not believe so. No, just Paul Van Cott and me.
Okay.
Hi.
Do I have to respond to Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, you know, Mr. Rand's here tonight, first client bought the property a year or 2 ago. It's strictly competition based. Again, I think, you know, you look at it from a bigger picture and the impact on the entire community. everyone wins, from the consumer to the operators, and everyone's works better when there's competition nearby, and it's ultimately good for the consumer. So strictly here tonight was another competition concern. Mr. Brandon did have valid points, and I respect your comments. But again, it is strictly competition based. That being said, a couple of the comments that were there made, just so everyone knows the process, we started back with the town back in 2018. We met with Dave and the planning board chairman at the time. And we originally in the highway business district, it was 50% lot coverage. So we came in with a larger footprint, bigger gas, bigger building, everything was larger. Once we were made aware of what the lot coverage was and analyzed the zoning requirements further, we adjust our plans, we scale down significantly, and that's where we're at today. And we continue to work with the planning board, the zoning board, and the town and the public to see what more modifications we can make that makes this a win-win and a real key addition to the community. In terms of landscape for the current property, I mean, there's a used car lot, a condemned home that's in terrible condition, and the last was a residential 2-family rental unit. I mean, there's no one in there now, but the place is falling apart. So it's extremely overgrown, not taken care of. What we tried to do is kind of look at properties, and there's an opportunity here where you clean up the properties here in a commercial zone, and as well as serve the community. So that's kind of what we aim to do, is kind of be a community partner, and any community we enter, we are heavily involved with in all aspects, and we take 100% ownership, because again, we buy the real estate, we develop it, and we operate the stores ourselves, where other gas stores are not the case. So that being said, Mr. Moran, another point was, separate the uses. Our store shops, 95% of them have our convenience store portion with gas. It's a component of the industry. The reason the structure is larger today is because we're keeping up with what the consumer wants. They live a busier lifestyle. It's grab and go items. It's ice cream. It's dairy. It's wraps, sandwiches, etc., breakfast sandwiches. So our business model is based on what the consumer buys and what they're asking for, and what we get calls for daily and say, hey guys, can you look into offering this item? So that's what we do. Furthermore, in terms of stormwater management and spills, etc., we did submit pretty detailed information about how we handle our stormwater runoff, etc. And I hope the board received those copies, and if they have any questions with it specifically, I'd be happy to go through that and address those questions.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that's part of your environmental review and runoff for, like Mr. Brandon said, for gas stations. It's probably a little different than a normal business, so that's been addressed previously. So another concern was brought up about, or a possibility would be to decrease the number of filling spots. So right now you have 4 pumps, and I believe they're singles, so they're not double stacks of one car per side at a time.
So it's 4 pumps, 8 fueling positions, so you can fuel on both sides.
Okay, there are 8. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So
it's 4 pumps, 8 fueling positions. So
right,
it's on both sides. So it's 8 in total.
Right, that was my point.
8
They're
fueling
not double
positions.
stacked. They're not double stacked like the Sunoco station, not yours. The other Sunoco station, which is farther north, doesn't get up the bridge, which are double stacked.
Yes, that's correct.
Just horrible design.
They're not double stacked, no.
So have you explored any alternatives to either reducing that number or changing its position for traffic flow? I don't see where you could, but I want to make sure that you have addressed it in.
Yeah, so internally, we started with 5, so 10 fueling positions and 5 across, 5 in parallel. And what we did is we scaled down based on the lot coverage and need. You know, this is a busy road. Our traffic and the gas is kind of based on the need, the pass by trip association. So that's kind of how we gauge how many pumps we install at sites. And again, gas long term, you know, people always say, you know, where's gas going to go? And for us in particular is, you know, again, we take ownership, we operate our sites, we're going to be here the long haul, whether it's with gas or another fueling source, we'll be the leader there so folks can fuel up their vehicles in any means going forward.
Like previously discussed, I'd like you to seek out alternatives for impervious surfaces wherever you can. I know you've said for the parking areas where you have pedestrian and public traffic, it's not feasible due to ice melt, all broken off. Wherever we can reduce that, and the board can help here, we can see if we can put in a little legwork on this.
If you want to pull up the landscaping plan, if you don't mind.
Any area where you can do that to reduce the lot coverage.
Not my computer, sorry.
Sorry,
Couldn't be slower.
South
Thank
Chapel,
you.
South Chapel, Road, what's gonna happen there? And Doggy Donuts, the morning. South Chapel Hill Road, this is gonna back up. People are gonna be going like that through there. If they do it,
Why?
when they're going south on line, cut down on South Chapel Hill Road on the line. This is gonna do that.
Why?
They will. Better chance.
For what reason? To go south?
Traffic.
To go south?
Absolutely.
That's why Chapel Hill exits down there.
Traffic will back up beyond South Chapel Hill. on
Mhm,
Chapel
yep.
Hill Road in the morning. Okay. The light, it's not no turn red, it's a way to green, okay, people go into way to green. To go south on nine. They're gonna do, they're gonna come in, they're here, go right out that way.
Well, we make it
And if you want to-
South Chapel Hill. No, they can't go over.
Yeah.
Can't go north.
But Bill, if you were going
You're talking about,
east on Chapel Hill Road and want to go south on 9W, and your alternative was to take South Chapel Hill Road, you would take South Chapel Hill Road to its termination and just make a right on 9W.
people won't do that, those states, the shortest
Oh, yeah, there's not.
is what they do. And you're talking about cutting down, they eliminate that. You're cutting down.
Well, I don't know if you can, wouldn't that?
We would encourage you not to eliminate that,
No.
because based on our discussion with DPW, that is,
Well, then, gate,
based on our discussion with DPW, that is the route west on Chapel Hill. When you leave the site, there's no place to go but east or south, right? So in order to get back out onto Chapel Hill Road to go north, you can either exit the site to the north or go on Chapel Hill Road and make a right. The only way to get out of the site and go west is to go on the South Chapel Hill Road to that terminus. The reason why DPW insisted on that is because of what Bill said. The site, the intersection backs up.
And
So-
that's part of the traffic stuff.
Based on the queuing, it was clearly determined. Ken Worsted did it, and there's nobody better in the business as far as I know. So in my opinion, we would encourage you from the planning perspective, and I'm not speaking for the planning board, but from a planning perspective, I would encourage you not to do
because
refuse truck, come in, like, back down.
Again, this is more of a planning board issue, but we included a truck routing plan, and showed where the tankers and the garbage delivery trucks and they're coming from Chapel Hill.
Do we have that here? Tom?
Yes. So no vehicles, delivery vehicles on South Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
It's illegal. That's what piece of property for the traffic control.
It is.
You know, that's why law and good happening around that.
So,
Does anyone have anything for the applicant? Not that I want to have this back and forth, but Mr. Moran, do you have, were the concerns you had addressed?
No.
Or at least in part?
No, you know, the only concern that I have for the board is, in essence, you know, they prepare a plan that would show what they would be entitled to as a
Must be on the plan.
Molly, push the button.
Must be on the plan, but what's this piece right here? What's this? Is that closet? Or a phone storage?
It's a shed, a little shed.
Okay. Just find one spot to-
If there's no other questions or comments, about anything open, keep the public hearing open. The applicant can, address some of the issues that we brought, come up with some feasible alternatives. And if the alternative isn't feasible, we'd like reasons for that, not just doesn't work, can't do it, understand. Give us some background information why that is not feasible and why it will not work in your situation. And if you can, you know, look into alternatives on your end. You guys are in a business, you know. Look into some new alternatives.
Yeah, we'll certainly go back to the drawing board and look again. I mean, we've looked at this many times, as I mentioned, and we have scaled down since, but I will certainly go back and see what other tweaks we can make it plan.
But I also suggest, you probably have done this, but again, looking at the square footage of the building, decreasing that, because if you decrease that, then you decrease the amount of, parking spaces that are required. I'm sure you've done that, but maybe look at that also.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a motion, I have a second. Favor?
All right.
All right. More, even more. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Jeff.
You need it, Dave, you sent this to us electronically.
We have it all electronically. If any member, yeah, take it. You can make paper airplanes out of them and roll them up at your house. Put the paper on the back. The paper cuts will take them. Yeah, we'll take them. Yeah, because then we roll them up and we hit the building.
So, moving on.
Nope.
Read.
Nope, not here.
Okay.
We don't know where he is. We anticipated he would. One of the reasons, besides the fact that we have Paul online, oh, I should speak at the mic. One of the reasons we have Paul via WebEx is because he's a million miles away. And we'd like to have him here, but Mr. Reed was going to be, at a ball game today, a Little League game, and he's going to step away, and that's what we understood, and he's not here. So I know the board does not typically entertain applications without the applicant.
We do not.
So we will let the applicant know that we will see him next month. Okay? Okay.
Minutes to approve. Why do you put have the board extend that public hearing or just extend? those?
It's open, unless you close it, it stays
Right,
open.
stays open. Minutes to approve, April 8th. Do you, I didn't write it, I did my desk. For April 8th? Okay.
Small ass, the sign place is not dug in. The down said the sign is fairly lined up.
That should be perpendicular. I said perpendicular.
As amended,
I recommend,
we'll make that change.
I had read them in the past, I turned them out, I just left them on my desk. Anyone have any other amendments or? Make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Russ?
I know.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so carried. The minutes of May 13th, which I was not present for.
It was the best one we've had in ages, right?
I know.
Oh, my God. There was cake, pie, oh, it was heaven.
We approved three?
What?
We approved three?
Yeah.
Three. Oh, yeah, we were going
All
nuts.
space,
Just nuts, John, it was great.
and the guy there on the hill by the,
That's right.
got them all.
Well done. Good memory.
I didn't know what changes. No, Bill? Any changes? No, I didn't.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
Accept that, so it's-
Sorry?
I'll second it.
All in
Oh,
favor?
my God, that's awesome.
Anyone
No.
opposed?
I'm encouraging the new member.
Not opposed.
Okay, I am not closing the meeting yet.
So carried.
You need to introduce.
I got the answer. I don't know.
Okay.
That was my,
Don't yell at me. The chair's right there.
I didn't make the motion.
Don't look at me.
I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can't.
Okay.
We have a-
New member.
we have a new member.
We have-
No one's been face to face with yet.
Oh, yes, we welcomed you via web
You did,
deal.
you did, officially you did.
So if you'd like to go around, Alan, go ahead. Hello.
Just tell me your name, that
Al?
would be great.
Good to meet you.
Alan Hartman.
Alan Hartman, okay.
Brown.
What's going on? Paul Gardula.
Okay, I'm Jessica Van Kenny.
Dave Martin.
Very nice to meet you.
You know who I am.
Van Houten Kenny, hyphenated.
Ben Howland?
Yeah.
Kenny's.
Kenny Seven.
Kenny's daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, no, she's good people. She comes from good stock.
What are you talking about?
Well,
And you don't look anything like you did when I worked
Something.
for that.
Probably not,
Yeah.
probably not. A lot younger than me.
You wouldn't remember me, but
Now I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Bill, Alan, all in favor?
All
Aye. Well,
right.
all right.
thank you all. Mr. Van Cott, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Where are you?
guys.
Where are you?
Bill, you're still live?
You gotta push the button.
Still live?
Where are you?
Me, Saranac Lake.
You're still talking?
Yeah.
Jessica, you're still live?
Let's kill that.
It is,
Welcome, Jessica.
thank you.
Are we good?
Yeah. Bye.
No, no.